Hi, my darlings. Thank you for joining me here on my channel for a Q&A. It has been a very long time since I've done a Q&A video. I used to enjoy doing them sort of semi-regularly, but I haven't done one for ages. So it's a delight to be here with you, answering the questions that some of you posed to me over on Instagram. Thank you so much for everyone who gave me a question on Instagram. I will try to get through as many as I can. I'm definitely not going to be able to get to them all, but I will answer as many as I can. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for having an interest, and it's really made me think about a few things. There's definitely a big, interesting range of questions. As always, the timestamps are your friends, so you can have a look at what is being said and when, what question I'm answering rather, and when. Just to let you know, the light is changing. It is becoming evening here in the UK, so things are going to get darker and the lighting concept may change, but I like to think that's all just part of it. So let's get into it. Let's do this. So someone wants to know if I'm watching any good series lately. I have been crap with watching series lately. I was planning to start a series called, I think it's called Sensate, which is about a bunch of telepathic and I think polyamorous superheroes that was recommended to me by a client. If you're watching, you know who you are. I definitely want to check that out. Is that what it's called? Sensate, but with an 8? I think that's what it's called. I looked at it, it's on Netflix, I'm into the idea, so I will watch that at some point. And I have been watching a lot of true crime series, so just like true crime documentaries that are split into series. I watched the one about Ian Brady recently on Prime. I'm very interested in true crime, I always have been. And if you want to understand more about my particular interest in the human shadow in that regard, I'll leave a video down below for you all about my interest in the human shadow and the dark side of things. But yes, I've always been very interested in true crime. There are a few other series. I watched one called The Never-Ending Murder, which is about a very prominent unsolved murder case here in the UK in the 90s that I remember from when I was growing up. So, you know, very often I'm going through some kind of true crime thing that is split into, you know, episodes, basically. I think earlier I said split into series, but I mean split into episodes. However, I will say in terms of series, I have just started rewatching The Sopranos from the very beginning. This is very exciting for me. I've only watched The Sopranos all the way through from start to finish once, and since then I've watched a few episodes kind of sporadically here and there, but I've always wanted to just dig into it again from the beginning and from the place I am now in my life, and just sort of like reacquaint myself with the characters. And I just think it's a work of art. I think Sopranos is truly a triumph, and it's been really interesting to start right from the beginning with the ducks in the pond, and I just find it really it's really Moorish. I actually love it, so I can't wait to get into Tony's weird dreams. Oh, spoiler, sorry. Yeah, I can't wait for all of that, so it's going to be epic. Very excited. I will say, if you can think of a series, my darlings, that you think I will really love, let me know down below. I do sometimes go for a series that is recommended to me, and I waver on it. A few people told me that I would really love Harlots, and I watched the first series and I just couldn't. It was too much style over substance. I don't know what it was. And I did watch the first series of Bridgerton, but I haven't felt moved to go back and watch the next one. I don't know why, I just do not feel drawn. So you know, and sometimes I do lose interest in the series before the end. I remember losing interest in Breaking Bad. I lost interest in Prison Break. I even lost interest in Vikings, darlings. I just really wasn't a fan of Ragnar's son. I couldn't bring myself to care about his escapades. So I am a little bit of a hard one to please with series. A few people have recommended Killing Eve to me, and I still haven't watched it. But, you know, I know that I can be a bit of a pain in the arse, and that if I'm really going to invest the time, it's got to be perfect. But if you can think of anything that you really imagine I would like, let me know. I remember liking very much 6 Feet Under. And I remember liking Lauren Ambrose from 6 Feet Under when I was a teenager. She's gorgeous. Anyway, sorry, I digress. I got a few questions on Instagram about what I think happens after death. I'm just going to break this down really simply, okay? I believe we're all animated by something which is eternal, which is never ending, which doesn't die after the body decomposes and is no longer animated. That energy goes on to animate something else in some way. And that's about the extent of what I can imagine happens. I do believe, though, in that thing in the Bhagavad Gita about the third state of being, where you have not the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, sorry. I was reading them just after my brother died. He was a huge fan of the text, and there's something in there about like the spinning mirrors, or I'm not sure what the translation was, but anyway, there's like 3 states of being: your physical state, the state where you are one with spirit again, and then this third state, which is like where your energy signature pervades throughout every place you've been and everyone you've known. That really resonated with me. I'll have to get that part out and read it again, but that part really resonated with me just after my brother died, because I couldn't figure out how I was getting such strong, such significant, such deeply appropriate, specific signs. And I had to think carefully about what was going on there. And I did think about that a bit after my Uncle Seth died tragically and unexpectedly a few years ago. I thought about it then, and I remember discussing it with my brother. So it's really interesting that I should now be discussing it with myself somewhat. But I do think that energy signatures are very powerful, and I believe we're creating an energetic legacy of sorts. You know, after someone dies and you go into their room and you touch their things and you go where you went together, and you can't deny that something's going on in those places, and something's going on at certain times of year where you still feel like they are very present, and you feel like it's more than just your cognition or your desire for that to be so. It's more, it's something else. Something is happening, I definitely get that sense. So I'll have to figure that out more and go more deeply with it. But for me, as a witch and as a mystic, I have never really spent that much time wondering about what happens after death. I must admit that I just consider it to be a doorway, and I don't like anyone getting too bolshy about what's on the other side of that doorway. I can't stand anyone being really prescriptive about it, and I therefore might have sort of kept my hat out of the ring when it comes to what I think on it. That kind of knowledge, that kind of understanding just completely evades me. And for me, I feel like that's the healthier way to think about something like God or death or whatever, is the idea that you don't know anything about it, and that's okay. It's the mystery with a capital M. So I know that a lot of people have read a lot about different theories on it and thought deeply about what they believe happens. I know some people remember multiple lifetimes, all that kind of stuff. But for me, it's never actually been something that I want to go mad in depth with. It's just never been. It's like contacting the dead. A lot of people are really into that. That is a big part of what they do and a big part of what they learn about and go into. For me, not so much. I think everyone has their different specialities and areas of interest. I've never really, is that spirit being like, get into reincarnation, bitch? I've never really thought that deeply about what happens after death, but that's as much as I will say. I think energy is infinite. I think energy signatures stay around. Etheric chords remain. Energetic legacy, and the notion of still being able to connect with that. In terms of, can I still connect with the person, or will people be able to connect with me when I die, me as I was? I don't think exactly. I think I'm a one-time thing. I don't believe I'm just going to float about, really. I do believe it's possible that people could come back in spirit or whatever, or stay around, because I can understand how that life force might not eject for some reason, or it might not want to inhabit something else. It might not be able to. But in terms of is someone actually going to be able to chat to me as I am now on the astral or in spirit? I don't necessarily think that, but I think something's going on. How did you start your business? I started my business as a hobby. So my business was originally a tarot blog that I started in 2011 called The Four Queens. And the tagline for it was Tarot for the Chic Enthusiast. That was the very first tagline. I wanted to create a tarot blog that used really striking visuals. At that time, I did not know that it was not okay to just rip shit from fashion magazines and use it on your blog. I mean, everyone was doing that at that time. Not that ignorance is an excuse, okay, but my blog looked sexy and it shouldn't have done. I was using pictures without credit. I was just going on Google and getting them. And I would write really intricate sort of stylish posts about tarot. The blogs I saw on tarot were great and they were informative and I loved them, but they weren't the style that I wanted. I wanted something that looked very like aesthetic and I guess more contemporary language, and not necessarily connected to paganism or witchcraft or even the spirituality associated with the elements. I wanted a tarot blog that spoke to me aesthetically and also really connected tarot with like pocketbooks, like layman's psychology, pocketbook psychology, issues you come across in life, all that kind of thing. The thoughts in my head, I guess, as well. The personal intimacy I had with the cards and kind of trying to translate that. So I started there, and I started to sort of, go into tarot forums and get to know people. At that point, I didn't know if it's what I wanted to do full time or anything like that, but I did start up a Facebook page and I decided that I would start. I did a few months working for the UK College of Psychic Studies, doing email readings to see if I could do them and if I liked to do them. And then I switched to going on my Facebook page and giving free one-card readings every few days for feedback. And I did that for quite a while until I was sure that, like, wow, I really like doing this. And that's when I opened my Etsy shop in 2011, selling very cheap, very cheerful, very short and sweet readings. And from there, the year after that, in 2012, I started my YouTube. My YouTube was supposed to be a totally separate thing from my little, tarot side hustle. It didn't occur to me in any way that YouTube would be the thing that would make more people go to my Etsy shop and pick up readings and want to engage with me as a card slinger. And so that was a really pleasant surprise because, of course, I did have the shop linked in my about and in the description, but only insofar as I had everything I did online linked. So I had my Facebook linked, I had my blog linked, and I had my shop linked as well. But it turned out that as soon as I started to put videos on YouTube and people started to take notice, more people started buying from me, not just people that had read my blog that were kind of long-term followers of the blog, but actually people that watched me on YouTube. So it all started there and it just started slowly snowballing into this wonderful, psychedelic lump of utter fizz that you see before you now. A few people on IG asked me how I'm coping with my grief, and I want to say, first of all, thank you for asking me that. I know that it can be a bit scary for people to ask that question and to check in with someone when they haven't brought it up first. And I think it's really daring. I think it's something real and raw that someone can ask you. I went to a party a few months ago and my wonderful friend Miriam, who I don't actually know that well, but I'd love to get to know better. She's so awesome. I've hung out with her a few times and we were sat like all dressed up at this amazing party, drinking outside, and she said, how are you? How are you dealing with your grief? And I just looked at her and I was like, thank you for asking that. Like, wow, just and she was like, oh, fuck it, it's life. You're in pain. You're right here in front of me. I've got your attention. Tell me how you are. I just found that, sometimes it depends. Like if the person knows you and they know what type of person you are and they know that you would appreciate that, then it's good for sure. And I really appreciate it that you asked. Okay, so how am I coping with my grief? It's very, very up and down, very day to day. The main things that help me cope with it are regular gym attendance. I really enjoy working out. It helps me get a lot of feelings out that I'm kind of done talking about so much now. It's not that I'm not talking about my grief. I am talking about my grief still. And I am, doing the work in therapy and I have my close people and everything. But there's a lot of things that in the first year I talked about ad nauseum that now just kind of like aren't. It's not going to do good to talk about them. I'm going to have to get them out in another way. So the gym has been great. Journaling has been great. I'm very, very lucky to have a therapist. I know how lucky I am to have her. And she was my therapist before I lost my brother. So that is a massive bonus because it's so hard to look for a therapist when you're newly bereaved. I know that from people who've told me of the experience. Making art. I'm not making art as much at the moment. I wish I was, but making art is really helping. Working, seeing my clients, being effectual, making a difference, making videos, interacting with people online is really, really helpful, and I came back to that sooner than I think anyone expected, but a few people did understand it. Like, they also went back to their occupation and their creativity, and they went back to it sooner than people would expect because they needed something stabilizing where they could feel focused, where they weren't just drowning in it all the time. So that's really helpful. And of course, my witchcraft is key. I don't know what I'd be doing if it wasn't for my loved ones and my craft. Somebody wanted to know, if you had any pets, what would they be and what would their names be? I've thought about this a worrying amount for someone who is not planning on having pets anytime soon. I want some little dogs. I really want some little dogs. I know it sounds very like unwitchy to not immediately fantasize about cats, and black cats at that, but I want some little dogs. I would love some little chihuahuas or something like that. And I want to call them things like pestilence and famine, and I'd love a couple of ones called Demon and Disco or something like that. I don't know. I just want to give them like badass or very sassy names. I really love Chihuahuas in particular. I think they're the dogs that most reflect my personality, although I would absolutely adopt, not shop. So it really depends like what little ones want to come home with me, where I can be most of service. But yes, I do in the future wish to have dogs, and I want them to be little, cute, little lapdog things to represent my personality. Bolshy, loud, mouthy, obnoxious, but small, cute, fun size. I'd love some reptiles as well. My best friend has a leopard gecko, and I'm looking after her at the moment, and she's just gorgeous. I mean, really just hypnotic and so fun to watch. So I've got a big respect for reptiles, big love for reptiles. So I would love to have a gecko of my own at some point as well. I think that would be amazing. I just want to say, for the record, I love cats as well. I was raised in like a cat household. We didn't have dogs. We always had a cat since I was like a baby. But the thing is, because I don't, cohabit with anyone, don't plan on having children, anything like that, I feel like I would love pets that I can kind of guarantee are going to be tactile. And you can pretty much always guarantee that with a dog. If the dog has come from a difficult situation, it's going to take time and it's going to take training. But it's extremely rare to meet a dog that doesn't want to, on some level, be close to you or be around you, or come and see you when you open the door if you've been out or whatever. Whereas with cats, it really is a bit of a gamble. It's very hit and miss. And I respect that shit. I love cats. I think they're vehemently independent. They're very interesting creatures. They do what they want when they will. And I actually fundamentally distrust people that don't like cats for that reason. I think when somebody actually says, I don't like cats, I think that's a bit of a red flag, to be honest. But I just want to if I'm going to have the experience of having pets, I'd love to have pets that I know on some level what it's going to be, if that makes sense. And I'm sorry if that makes me sound selfish or whatever, but that's just how I feel. I also think it's good to have pets that need to go for walks and stuff like that. I do fantasize about a big floppy house rabbit as well, though. Big floppy house rabbit called Charlie at some point. I mean, they can't all live together. This is a ragtaggle crazy idea. I have no idea of the origin of the word ragtaggle, by the way. I try to, whenever there's like old-fangled anachronistic words that I use, I do try to like look them up. I can't look them up right now because I would have to stop filming, and I can't because I'm losing the light. But like, I'm sorry if that word comes from some fucked up place. I've never intended to use it if it did. Honestly, there's just so many words that we use or sayings that we use like so innocuously. I can't English today. And then you find out that they have some like really fucked up, awful, colonialist, racist origin. So I just try to be a bit careful when I actually don't know the etymological stem of something. But anyway, I'm on a tangent now. Someone asked me if I've ever second-guessed my veganism. I actually second-guessed my veganism the first time I went vegan, because I actually didn't firstly go vegan in 2015. I went vegan quite some years before that. 2008 or 2009? Yeah. Okay, we were not getting the artisan cheeses and the vegan bloody looks like a burger, tastes like a burger burgers. Okay, there was no vegan delis. Well, there probably was in like Portland, Oregon, but it was a different time. Okay, it was a different time. It was an experimental wild time that took you to the most like far out specialist health food shops for random things, and just trying to figure out if you could afford to like get milk that wouldn't somehow curdle. Anyway, the dark bad old days. Yeah, I went vegan in my early 20s basically. So I did fall off the vegan bandwagon. It was too hard after my first big breakup. I was in a state. I was a complete fucking mess, and I remember like ordering a cheesy pizza, and I never went back to eating meat. I stopped eating meat when I was like 14 or 15 years old. And there's been like one or two drop-offs from that in the entire time from then to now. It really is very, you know, I think I had a bite of a burger in Italy and like one prawn sandwich at some point. It was so minimal. So I've been a veggie forever, but I did stop veganism when I had my first big breakup. I was left alone in a house I couldn't afford, and I was a complete mess. I had no idea I was going to break up with this person. It was a massive shock to me, and everything just crumbled, and I could barely get myself out of bed to go to work. And it was just such a fundamental shake up, and I didn't have the firm foundations then to be able to do what I do now, which is essentially to like carry on and know the tools and know what to make myself or what to go for when I'm kind of a bit of a mess and I'm all over the place, you know. So I went back to veganism in 2015, and it's pretty much been, you know, I've been vegan from that point. And when I say pretty much, I mean that like not everything that I ever use is like cruelty free and from a vegan company or from a company that isn't owned by a parent company. I've tried to get better and better at that. I really have. I'm still looking for a couple of particular makeup products whose parent companies test on animals, and I don't like that. So I'm still making the switch there. Every so often, I'm sure I've bought a bit of stationery that's got some glue in it that's made with animals. I accidentally bought a sketchbook that I only thought about looking up the company when I got home, and they're absolutely not vegan. Didn't even think of it, right? So it's taken me a long time to think very carefully about like everything that could be, that could use animal products. And of course, it's not an exact science, okay? All those people that are like, well, it's silly being vegan because there's animal products in everything. Yeah, we're not saying that we can bypass everything. We're saying we're doing what we can. We're just trying to be conscious when we can of what we can. It's not an absolutely like anal, rigid, exact science, but it's as good as we can get it, basically. I did eat a couple of veggie meals when I was in Bruges because I really just like, I could not find anything that I could subsist on. All of the snacks, like everywhere we went, had some cheese, or there was some butter in the crackers, or I was fed up. Okay, I shared a pizza with my friend that had cheese on it. It did not make me ill or anything like that, and it was a one-off because I was so sick of the salads that were vegan. There was nothing in them. There wasn't even avocado. There was no walnuts. There was no nothing. It was just very uninspired. I must say that's the only thing I didn't like about Bruges. I did find some great places to go for like the vegan waffles. That was awesome. Amazing like vegan smoothie places. But when it came to like getting dinner, I found one good place that had actual vegan things on the menu, like actual meals, guys, not just like this afterthought bowl of rabbit food. So to me, if I'm out and I'm doing something and I absolutely, let's say that I'm at a funeral and that, like, let's say that I'm hungry and I'm at a funeral. This is literally an example that happened to my vegan friend. He rang me up from his uncle's funeral and was like, I'm drunk and I feel awful and there's like nothing vegan to eat. And I was like, darling, have an egg sandwich or a cheese sandwich. And he's like, I can't do it. And I'm like, honey, you are going to get ill. You're there until very late. Like, it's okay. It's not like you went and bought it or milked the fucking cow in the machine. Like, eat something. We're trying our best, but it can't always be a perfect thing. Do you know what I mean? But in answer to your question, no, I have not second-guessed veganism. I still think it's really important to me. And 99.9% of days, unless I'm walking around in Bruges in an area where I can only get leaves, I am vegan. I eat vegan and I try to buy vegan. And, I think it's important to me ethically, morally. It's just a principle thing. I can't stand the thought of animals suffering. I can't stand it, guys. It makes me sick. It's just not something that I want to invest in and be a part of. But like I said, not an exact science. So no, I have not second guessed it. But yes, there is some measure of flexibility. There is some measure of flexibility there at times when I need it. But not often. Somebody asked me a really unusual question. I'm going to include it, but I am quite surprised by it. I don't know where it came from or what the reasoning was for asking me, but someone's asked me what I think about disabled people using sex workers. I would say that I feel the same way about that I do about anybody using sex workers. Sex work is a huge industry with a lot of different elements to it. It's a huge spectrum of different things that are happening. And I think that spectrum goes from the supremely dangerous and disempowering to the righteous, creative, and I guess freeing, liberating. So it's a huge, huge spectrum. And I just think anyone that would be using any service provider that was in that industry would have to be cognizant of that for me to personally be okay with their choice to do it. I'm not in any way like a swerve. I'm absolutely for sex workers' rights. I'm for them having a safe industry. I'm for them unionizing. I'm for hearing their stories, understanding what goes on from their point of view, and for my part, having like volunteered with homeless people and volunteered with vulnerable people, and also having friends who have come from vulnerable places and they had to get involved with sex work, I will say that those people that I've spoken to, it was not some glamorous, empowering, thing that they would say was a great point in their life. And I just think that has to be remembered, that there is it's excellent that sex workers are slowly, gradually having more and more of a voice, speaking for themselves, and that people understand more and more how important it is, how essential it is, to let them advocate for themselves, to advocate for their rights, to let them have unions and all that kind of thing. Like, that is absolutely essential. Like, give them what they need to run the business safely. It's not going away. It's one of the oldest trades of all time. It's not going away. Let's get real about it. I'm about getting real about shit. I'm not about like, let's stop everyone doing drugs. Drugs are being done. Let's talk about how people get like safe, clean needles. Let's talk about how people go somewhere safe to do it if that is what they are doing. I'm about harm minimization rather than eradication of the issue, which never fucking works, right? So in the parts of sex work where there are issues, and those places do exist, that part of sex work does exist. And I think it's just important that we do not try to brush that away or varnish over it. Okay. I think in those areas, we need to be thinking about how we can help people in that situation rather than like worsening the problem for them. Sex work in some areas of the industry is like very linked to things like addiction. It's very linked to trafficking, obviously, etc. And I've spoken to people that have been in those kinds of situations. I also have friends who are sex workers who are absolutely not in those situations. It is what they want to do, is what they choose for themselves. And I think that's righteous. Okay, so don't get me wrong. But in terms of disabled people using services, I just feel the exact same way as I do about anyone using them. Feel ethically sound about the services that you're using and how you're behaving when you're fucking using them. That's basically it. How do you feel about Pride this year? Very, very mixed feelings about Pride, I will admit. I feel bad about Pride because I haven't really acknowledged it that much this year. I've tried to leave a lot of very encouraging comments underneath creators that I follow who are talking about Pride, and they are talking about like the things they're fighting for, advocating for, what they think about it, etc. And it's not because I'm not queer, because I am fucking queer, but I just feel like, for me, like, for example, I've really, really, really wanted to post a bunch of queer people that I follow on my Instagram to get the word out about them while it's Pride Month. I love doing things like that. I love alerting people to other people that I follow and like getting those connections made. I'm kind of an online Cupid in that way, but I haven't done it. And I think it's just because I'm having a difficult relationship with Pride this year. I really am. There's just so much shit going on. And, I protested against Section 28 as a teenager. And I just feel like so much of what I fought for, I'm just watching it get fucking eradicated. And it hurts. I'm having a really difficult response to Pride this year. It's really like, I'm hurt. And I'm scared for people, and my God, I just literally looked outside and there's the cloud outside looks like a lioness. Seriously. Well, that's what I'm seeing anyway. Like, let me show you before it changes. Can you see that? Can you see that lion ear and mouth? It's kind of going now. It looks a bit weird now, but it did look like a lioness. And I just looked outside and like it was almost like spirit was like, take courage, dear heart, as Aslan would say. Take courage, dear heart. I just hate it when I feel so fragile and so fucking upset about something that I can't even be a good, I can't even be good for the movement, or I'm just feeling sorry for myself and I need to like get a grip and stop licking my wounds and start activating more. That's how I feel about Pride. Favourite time of day? The witching hour. Not a time of day at all, it's a time of night. I try to give myself less access to the witching hour during the week. You know, my circadian rhythm is a little bit of a bastard, I will say. Yeah, it's always been that way. My circadian rhythm has always been nuts. I used to get insomnia when I was a kid and crazy dreams and astral adventures and weirdnesses with sleep, weirdnesses with being like manic and wanting to stay up forever. So, you know, my relationship with the middle of the night, which for me is one of the most creative and incredible times that I just love so much. I love being on my own in the middle of the night, just making stuff. From like 12 till 5 is like the key time. I love it. My relationship with that time of day is a little, not fraught, but I just try to let myself have it a bit less. You know, I try to like be asleep by that point, but that is my absolute favorite time of day, is the middle of the fucking night. Somebody's asking me what kind of outfit I'd hate to wear for a day. Neutrals, beige, white, grey, no accessories, hair slick back, nothing going on with the hair, like no jewelry, just very blend in. Yeah, I would wear it and I'd be okay, but I wouldn't feel the enclosed cognition that I feel from what I actually wear. It would be sucky. Other people look great in that stuff, but for me, I don't own much neutral shit, you know? And if I do, it's something that I wear so that I can let the loud thing that I'm wearing do the talking, you know what I mean? Not that I consider this Clash t-shirt a neutral. This is not a neutral, but yeah, I own a few neutral things, but I'm not ever wearing a neutral outfit. I own very, very few beige things. So beige would probably be the colour that I just would not vibe with. If you put me in like an all beige outfit, like a beige trench, beige trousers, white top, beige bag, no, I'm going back to bed. I can't do this. Least favourite fiction trope? I don't have a massive list of tropes in my head, fiction-wise. I've watched a few videos on BookTube about shitty fiction tropes, and they're really amusing. But I can't think of any right now. Do you know what I just don't like in film and books and whatever? I do not like the will they, won't they. Not really the will they, won't they, but I don't like it when there are films where, first of all, they don't pass the, what test is it that you've got to pass? Is it called the Bethel test or something? Where the women talk about something other than men, right? If it's a heteronormative film, the women only talk about men in their scenes together. Hate that shit. She says, loving the original Sex and the City series, but that's different, all right? I was young. It's nostalgic love that I feel for it now. But there wasn't much talking about things apart from men in that. That is annoying. And also, I don't like it when, I just like to see a healthy dose of people being friends who could be together, right? Be they straight, gay, whatever. Especially when it comes to heteronormative stuff. I hate that whole thing of like a man and a woman being friends, but then being like, will they, won't they? You know, the friendship, it might be important, but like there's an attraction. I have a lot of straight male friends. I just keep a lot of straight male friends. Some of my closest friends in the world are straight and male. Not my closest friend, he's bi and male, but like, you know, I have straight male friends. They're beautiful. I can see why other people are attracted to them like that. They're my friends. They're like, they see me as friends, I see them as friends. And I just feel like I don't like that whole leftover, that crappy thing of like, can men and women really be friends? Is it possible for men and women to really be friends if they could fuck, if they might want to, if they want to fuck other people of that gender? It's like, oh, fuck yeah, this is so dull. Can we normalize men and women being friends already? Jesus Christ. It's caused me trouble in the past, quite honestly, with various people who think there must be something going on if I'm that close to a guy. Like, I'm just close to guys. What can I tell you? I'd hate a world where I didn't have any straight male friends. That'd be shitty. I know some great straight men. I know, it's crazy, but I do. So yeah, that's annoying. I don't like that. I don't like that. I also just don't like anything to do with someone being someone else's hero, nurturing them out of something and being like their savior. And I'm really about the premise of someone saving themselves, and yes, having an incredible like collection of people around them who help them with that and whatever, but ultimately self-saving is where it's at. I hate that kind of like feeling you get in a film where someone is just fucked until that key person turns up and turns everything around. And I just don't like that. I don't like the feeling that I would have nothing else going on that I could use, no other tools, no other... I don't like to feel like two people are finding the other person to be their world, you know? I'm my world and people are in my world with me, and I want everyone to feel that way. So that's what I can say at the moment. I'm probably going to finish this video and get like really annoyed with myself that I didn't think of more that I will think of later. I'm going to go now because I'm losing the light and I need to get a train. But one thing I will say is, someone asked me how I feel about Andrew Tate. Just, we all know what the fuck it is, all right? Literally. Darlings, thank you so much for asking me some questions for this Q&A. So interesting. Please get at me down below with any of your thoughts and feelings on this. I have also had exclusive questions posed to me over on Patreon. My doll faces and Pop-Tarts will be receiving an afterthoughts episode to go alongside this video. They have asked me questions about witchcraft, about business, about deity, about all kinds of different things. So if you would like to learn more about me and what I think about that stuff, then you can come and become a patron. Don't forget, you are charged on the 1st of every month. So if it's nearing the end of the month as you're seeing this video, you should make sure that you wait, hold your horses, and pay when the new month starts, okay? It does say that when you go to join, but some people do not read it and they get very shocked to be charged again only a week or so after they were charged. So please be careful of that, okay? The other thing I wanted to mention was, darlings, I am hosting for the first time in a long time. I'm finally back on track with hosting a workshop. I would like to do another round of Heart of Deity, which is my 3-hour workshop all about incredible, in-depth, juicy, vibrant deity connection. Bring yourself along if you did not come to the first round. If you were at the last Heart of Deity workshop, it's going to be the same workshop, so this doesn't include you. But for those of you who did not come to Heart of Deity last time, it is ready for you to enroll again. Please check out the date and time, see if you can make it. This time there will be playback available for people who cannot make the live. That was not what I offered last time, but this time it is. So if you're on the other side of the world and you know that you can't make it to the live, then you can go ahead and purchase this time and you will just receive playback after the workshop is finished, okay? But I want as many people as possible who can actually come together live to please do so. So check your diary, see if you can get it locked in. It's an early bird price at the time that you're watching this video. So get in now while it's the early bird price, okay? And if you are a dollface or a Pop-Tart on Patreon, please don't forget that you have a discount that you can use that is Patreon exclusive. So definitely use that as well. Thank you so much for your time today, darlings. Much love and blessed be.